In front of you is a world of magic. Everything you see, everything, every bug, every speck of dust is imbued with magic. You can fly on broomsticks, lift things without touching them, and create things out of thin air. All the people of this city can easily conjure, because witchcraft is a part of everyday life. People believe that it is a gift from God, and a person's position in society is determined by their skill in sorcery. Here, dragons are as normal as birds. In the depths of a dense forest lived a man, who was completely against the laws of the world of witchcraft and magic. The main character Mash Bernadette loves sweets, especially after rocking. Mash is an ordinary guy who lives with his foster father named Regro Vanded. He drank a tea and said that nothing else could upset him thanks to his life experience and stress management techniques, but suddenly Mash accidentally broke down the door. His father became very angry and asked his son why he did that. Mash replied that he didn't remember how to open the door properly, it should be pushed or pulled, apologized to his father and promised to fix the door. His father praised him for realizing his mistake. Mash tried to repair the door by trying to put it back in, but he started pounding the door against the walls and finally broke it down completely. Mash apologized to his father and promised that he would definitely fix the door. After that, his father asked him if he had fulfilled his training schedule for the day. Then Mash wanted to know why all his training was physical, but father didn't want to answer that question because Mash is an unusual person who can't use magic like ordinary people, so the only thing father can do is to make his son as strong as possible. The father went out on business and asked his son to watch the house and not to break the door. Mash responded by asking his father not to worry and said that he had memorized how to fix the door. The father became furious and shouted in an angry voice that Mash should memorize how to open the door. Before he left, the father had repeated to his son that he should not go out into the city. Immediately, after his father left, Mash looked at the flyer about cream puffs and decided to go to the town to buy a couple of delicious cream puffs, breaking his promise. He arrived in town and found only that everyone could use magic and wondered why magic was needed, because it could all be done with his hands. Then he found a cream puff store and ordered 7 cakes there. When Mash paid for the order, he crumpled the coins out of excitement. The salesman was very surprised by this and thought that it doesn't happen like that. Mash took the coins and straightened each one. The seller was very surprised that the guy had easily straightened the coins with his hands and thanked him for the purchase. Suddenly the wind blew and blew the hood off Mash's head. All the people around him were scared that he didn't have a magic mark. Then we were shown a magical cop named Brad looking at a newspaper article. Meanwhile, he was torturing a criminal who had stolen something. The criminal begged for forgiveness because it was just a petty theft. The policeman was indignant that he had to work harder because of the criminal's petty business and that the criminal would not cause him any more problems. He wanted to make him regret the theft, but suddenly the phone rang. He was told that an unmarked man had been spotted in the city. Then we see Mash, who was gnawing his conscience because he had went to town, but in the guy's opinion it was worth it. On the way home he ran into a policeman Terry, who was drunk. The policeman was very angry that the guy had soiled his uniform and vented his anger on the guy. As a compensation Mash offered him his cake, but because it was bitten, the policeman threw it aside, and then Mash tore his uniform because he wanted to clean it. Then another policeman, Brad, came to the same spot and was surprised that in such a situation, Mash is standing there like nothing happened and continuing to eat the nature cake. When the policeman wanted to arrest him, Mash's father showed up. He apologized and ran off with him. Brad laughed and prepared to cast a spell. As a result, he created a magic bird that followed Mash and his father all the way home. Mash got home with his father safe and sound. His father scolded him severely for breaking his promise. Mash was very upset about his behavior and it was clearly visible that he was sorry. His father decided that he could not be angry with him for long, but as a punishment he ordered his son to repeat all the morning exercises again. Mash gave his father the bag of cakes he had bought for him and wanted to leave the house, but his father quickly ran up and opened the door so that he wouldn't destroy them again. Looking at Mash after him, father thought about what a good boy he was. That teenage son would be unrestrained and rude, but Mash is quite docile. Mash has reached an age where he doesn't want to sit in 4 walls. For his sake, he and his father settled in the woods and hid as far away from the city as possible, but now the magical police have found out about him and they won't just let him go. His father looked out the window and saw the bird that the policeman Brad had sent. Suddenly there was a rumble in the house and Brad appeared, wanting to find Mash and asking him where his son was. At this time, Mash was at practice and he had completed his morning exercises in only 5 minutes. Even the surrounding animals in the woods were scared by Mash's tremendous strength. On the way home, Mash mumbled that he really wanted a cream puff pastry. When he got to the door, he started to remember again how to open the door properly, pulling or pushing. Suddenly he heard the voice of the policeman Brad saying that the magic police were responsible for destroying people who didn't have magic and that such people had no right to exist. Brad persisted in asking where his son was, but Regro refused to cooperate and Brad threw him against the wall. Afterwards, Brad warned him that harboring an unmarked man is a very serious crime and that he would advise him to turn him in, but Mash***'s father refused to cooperate and said he would never turn him in. Next we are shown Regro's past. He was a wizard with no talent. He was treated badly by everyone in the past and his family disowned him because of his weak magical powers. Since no one wanted him, he decided to take his own life, but at that moment he heard a baby crying and found a baby who had been abandoned because he didn't have a magic mark. At that moment Regro decided to take him and raise him as his own son. Regro made a promise to himself to protect Mash always, even if they were not related by blood. Father started yelling loudly for Mash to get as far away as possible so the police wouldn't find him. At this point Brad got very angry and was ready to kill Regro with magic. Then Mash burst in and knocked out the magical police officers, and the policeman Terry. Mash tore his uniform again and knocked him out. Regro asked Mash why he didn't run away. Mash replied that they were one family. Brad laughed at them and the police officers looked down on Mash because he couldn't use magic. Policeman then decided to use the most powerful spell he had used to chase away the dragon when he worked in bureau security. Mash was attacked by this spell and it caused the house to explode. Brad couldn't believe that Mash had repelled his magical power with his hands. Brad panicked and started using all the strongest spells he knew, but Mash repelled all the attacks with ease. Then Mash took his wand in his hands, and at the same time Brad created a magical defense. Mash couldn't make any magic and just threw the wand at Brad with all his might like a baseball, destroying Brad's magic defense. Mash threatened Brad that he would bury him if he would threaten his family. His father was glad that the training had been good for him, but then he was upset that if they beat the cops back now, more would come. Brad wanted to make a deal with Mash. Brad told him that once a year God chooses the best student. Mash must become the best among the students in the Academy of Magic and society will accept him, and in return Brad demands wealth and prestige from society. As a result, Mash agreed to this deal, as he and his father could not spend the rest of their lives running over the world. Regro was very touched that Mash had grown up to be a very good boy. Since then, Mash decided to become the best student at the Magic Academy so that he could live in peace with his father.